This is in response to Biily's Talking Points memo from Thursday, January 29th, 2015. Americans are not happy with Obama's war on terrorism. And the reason why I'm laughing, I'll get to that in a second. Biily played a little game here where they showed some clips of the deputy White House communications, whatever that guy is. And he had a little faux pas in there because he was making a distinction between terrorists and armed insurgency. Even though I understand why he made that distinction, and even though I understand why you would look at that in terms of how you're tactically going to go after those groups, it did sound good on TV. It made him look like he was a little bit stupid. Biily called it a big joke. But the thing is, they're looking at every aspect of this. ISIL, terrorist, the Taliban, armed insurgency. Look, I just pulled out a pen, but I'm not going to act like Biily. But so they're looking at it in different ways. They're looking at it, they're looking for strategic victories, whole scale, as fast as possible, etc. And where is the Taliban? So Biily makes it a joke, and then he goes into a Fox poll where 56% said that we are having a war with radical Islam, and 37% said we are not having a war without radical Islam. If that was the only choice that you had to make in terms of how our war on terror is going to be defined, then I could see maybe there were other choices out there that the Fox poll should have brought in. Then the other part of the Fox poll was, do you think that Obama is doing enough in terms of his war on terrorism? And 47% said that they did not believe that he was doing enough. 43% said that he was doing enough, and an additional 6% said that he was doing more than enough. So in essence, the poll was actually saying that 49% of the population said Obama was doing enough and more than enough against the war on terrorism, where 40% said no. And of course, Biily tries to obfuscate, and crack a stupid joke by saying it must have been skewed towards people who are in San Francisco. But he just admitted that Americans agree with Obama's policy on conducting fighting against terrorism. So Biily goes into that. Oh my God! There really are a lot of most Muslims do not want this type of terrorism. Most Muslims would like to go after this type of terrorism. And actually, he had also talked about the fact that the fact was that 132 kids were killed in that high school in Pakistan, and they were Taliban. And Biily was going to tell them, those are terrorists. Tell that to all those people who were killed. But when you talk about trying to correct it, and countries trying to correct it, Pakistan has made a very wholesale, I believe, change in terms of how they're going to be looking after all of these types of, let's just say, terrorist organizations within Pakistan. Is that they did not have a death penalty, now they're going to have a death penalty, and they're going to go actively after them, whereas before they used to leave them in those little nether regions where they was difficult for the Pakistani army to go after. And what's going to happen? I don't know. It's going to take time, because you got to remember that there are a lot of madrasas all over Pakistan that are preaching this type of hate, preaching this type of Islamic belief, and then let's just use the term terrorists, are going to go after and try and recruit as many as possible to their cause. And of course, it's going to be a give and take type of thing. And then of course, we do know that they've gone after, they went after the lady who was running for president. And that was that was Pakistan. So it's going to be an ongoing thing. And Biily says, oh, we will help them out. We're continuing to help them out. We want to help them out. They want to root it out. But again, there's a difficult dance that they all have to play politically. I mean, look at what's going on in Egypt right now. Things aren't great in Libya right now. Syria's got their own big problems. So there's a lot going on in a lot of these different countries, and how they handle it is very, very difficult. And there's a tap dance that they have to do politically to stay politically active without getting thrown out of office, etc. So this is a big thing that's going on. Now, in terms of, you brought up the aspect of Bo Bergdahl and the fact that, and you had that also in the thing the night before. And the reason why I want to bring this up, and I want to bring this up just very briefly, is you have these contrived crises, Billy, where you bring up all this stuff about how they're going to come and get us, they're going to come to our shores, they're going to behead us, they'll do anything to us. And let's just say that that's true, but they haven't come to our shores. And have there been a couple Americans murdered by ISIL? Yes, they have. And it's very, very unfortunate. We do not trade with terrorists. And of course, then we traded for Bo Bergdahl, and of course we have determined that as to being an armed insurgency. But we did bring an American back. And those 5 people that we traded for, who you're espousing as, top-notch leaders, generals, whatever, they're stuck in Qatar, and yeah, they're going to be able to use the phone there. Why was the arrangement made? The arrangement was made because we trusted the government of Qatar as a give and take type of thing. There was probably some stuff that went on behind the scenes that we'll never know about, that were agreed upon. I'd like to think that these guys will never get back to the battlefield. They're there right now. Don't know, how they're being monitored or watched, but I'm sure that all of that was discussed well before they traded those 5. They traded those 5 for Bergdahl. And the reason why I'm talking about a contrived crisis is we've had a couple Americans who have been killed by ISIL. We did trade for Bo Bergdahl through the Taliban. And we had a little bit of nuance as to the difference in terms of the description of the Taliban and ISIL in terms of being a terrorist organization and an armed insurgency. But let's get down to the real facts, Billy. The chances of any of them coming here are next to none. And I've already discussed that many times. And I'm just going, why don't you have an outrage about the fact that 3 women per day in the United States are murdered by a spouse, ex-spouse, boyfriend, ex-boyfriend, mostly by guns. Not necessarily all by guns, but mostly by guns. 3 a day, that's 20 a week, 21 a week, that's 84 a month. 10 months is 840. You're talking about close to 1,000 women a year, day in and day out. And the reason why you're not making a big distinction of it is many of them are women of color, and most of them are poor. So we've had a couple Americans who've been slaughtered overseas by ISIL, but we have an ongoing thing that's going on here in the United States. But you don't want to bring that up because that won't bring in the ratings, And then you also have, I would just make another distinction, is that close to 30,000 people per year are killed on the highways. And that number was a lot higher, and it's come down because we've invested in safety issues for the car to protect people who are in the car. Now, if someone's walking along and they get hit, there's no protection for that particular person. But people who are in the car, we've made tremendous progress in terms of helping and preventing people from dying who are in a car. But we have not made any progress whatsoever in terms of decreasing the amount of gun violence and how to protect people from gun violence. That hasn't been done at all. And that is, and how many women, as I said, that's over 1,000 women a year. And we also, that's that. And then we also know that that homicides and suicides by guns in the United States is greater than the number of deaths in cars. And but you haven't brought that up at all. So we have 30,000 people who are dying every year, approximately, from guns that you're not bringing up at all because of freedom. Freedom. Remember Richie Havens at Woodstock? Freedom, freedom. Remember he had that long robe on. He had long fingernails. Okay, so but you don't want to do that. You just want to talk about Bo Bergdahl getting traded for these 5 people who could go back to the battlefield, and have this, again, a contrived crisis about this whole thing. Let it all play out, Billy. Why don't you really try and help some people? Try and help some people in the United States. Try and help the women of color in the United States, okay, in terms of them being slaughtered by their husbands in terms of domestic violence, where 1,000 per year are killed, which is not how many people in the United States or overseas that are Americans that are killed by terrorist organizations, or as you would like to ridicule, armed insurgencies. Go after a real crisis in the United States. Don't keep contriving one.